BLM pet terrorist. This is a pet terrorist in the sense of you give him money and he goes off and shoots people and then...
Which one?
Oh, which one? That's a good point, actually.
They've got a few.
The newest one.
The latest one. Did we hear anything? Was there any updates on that rogue truck that independently ran over a few people in the end of last year?
I don't know. I assume they impounded that truck. The truck is serving its sentence of rusting away. The man who drove it, presumably out on the dole, about somewhere.
I mean, it was probably a self-driving car.
That's the update with the latest incident of BLM terrorism. So if we upload this first link here, you can also see Poso, who's very colourfully changed his name. I love that. Update: BLM activist Quintus Brown reportedly walked into candidate Greensburg office, pointed a gun directly at him, and opened fire.
Is that like a Louisville greeting?
That's just hello. Hadley doodly.
Was he from Texas, like from Simpsons? Well, howdy there.
You got to shoot in the air for that one, not at the candidate that you don't like because of politics. We get to the next one. You might wonder who the hell any of this is about. So this is the suspect. See what he's wearing? Can you read that? I'm about making my ancestors proud. Mr. Brown wants to make his ancestors proud, so he became a terrorist.
Kind of condemning your own ancestors there, aren't you?
Move on to the next one. There is a statement from the victim in the circumstance of this candidate. I don't know anything about the election, by the way. We're not even going to get into that because it doesn't matter.
Is Louisville?
No, it doesn't matter in the sense of terrorism always bad.
Obviously.
Just in case anyone was like, oh, well, maybe, so, no. So as you can see, someone here, Bailey, shaken but safe. Mayoral candidate Craig Greenberg describes shooting at campaign office. Again, totally normal things. This is the future, well, the grave in which Americans are starting to live. In which, well, if someone wants to walk in and shoot a candidate because Black Lives Matter.
Go for it. Here's your bail. In advance.
So we go to the next one. We can actually just take a look at what happened, and you'll notice, and keep this in mind. This article is written for the Courier Journal. Just keep that in mind. The mayoral candidate and 4 staff members were at a meeting in Butchertown Market on Story Avenue when a man entered the doorway at about 10:15 a.m., pulled out a gun, and aimed directly at me, Greenberg said at a press conference on Monday afternoon. Just another day campaigning. A staff member near the door managed to bravely get it shut, Greenberg said, and others moved tables in front of it as the suspect fled. So a bad terrorist, but still a terrorist.
I misread that at first as a staff member bravely got shot. He bravely threw himself in front of that bullet just for me.
Yeah, I can imagine actually that being the case. Someone would end up quoting that. Despite one bullet coming so close that it grazed my sweater and my shirt, no one was physically harmed, but you were that close. And so we're extraordinarily grateful for our safety, said the candidate. Late Monday, Louisville Metro Police identified local activist Quintus Brown, 21, as a suspect in the shooting. He has been charged with attempted murder and 4 counts of wanted endangerment. Police have not released any political motives or potential motives. No idea.
Whatever could it be? So how certain are we that this guy is the guy who shot it? Are they just saying potential suspect to be, diplomatic about it?
From what I've seen, it's basically 100%.
Okay.
As far as my knowledge, because you could just see people reporting on his name and the fact he's the only suspect and the guy with the gun. And
yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. However, Chief Etka Shields said the incident could be related to politics. Could. Who knows?
Which party is this guy affiliated with? What political?
I didn't look it up because I didn't care.
I mean, that's fair. I'm just expecting he might be. I would expect him to be more right of centre if he's being targeted by BLM activists, but at the same time,
well, BLM are happy to definitely kill people in blue as well.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They're not hard enough, or they're not red enough, frankly. So it could be related to politics. Who knows? Maybe he just stole $50 and he wanted the $50 back, so he shot him. The fact that Greenberg is Jewish, or that the suspect could have had mental illnesses, is also a possibility, say the police. The reason he mentions the fact that he's Jewish, and the fact that it's not just he just happens to be a Jew, we're just going to bring up Judaism. No, go to the next one. We can see some links from the suspect, who apparently on his Twitter account and some other accounts was retweeting some anti-Semitic theories about Jews owning all the slave plantations and all the slave trading ships.
Cotton capitalists, American Jewish entrepreneurship.
Yes. Classic BLM things.
So
BLM talking points.
This theory that it might be because he's Jewish has a little bit of water.
Yes, it's not just because he's a Jew, therefore it must be because he's Jewish. No, there's a bit more to it than that. And if we go to the next one, I'm using Andy No a lot for this because Andy No has been doing fantastic work. If we go to the next link, we can see Andy No pointing out. So this Bailey woman, you can't see it because, well, of the blocking. And as you can see, he points out, I wonder how much Brown's time writing for your publication helped to radicalize him. You have a whole division dedicated to this propaganda under the diversity and inclusion coverage. Did you and your colleagues not notice Brown posted a lot about black nationalism and communism?
I'm sure they would encourage it.
It's a very good point. And if we go to the next one, you can see him, ramping this up, Andy, saying at the lady, you amplified and supported Quintez Brown's racial grievance work a hell of a lot. Courier Journal thinks you're suited to report on him now because they're like, oh, yes, we'll just report on the situation. There's no conflict of interest. If we click on these images, we can see some of the stuff that Mr. Brown made for the Courier. As you can see, quote, black people are blamed when militarized police forces brutalize us. We're blamed when we're killed by those police forces. We're blamed for our environment. We're blamed for our schools. And too many of us accept this. Again, pretty standard stock rhetoric for...
So we're blamed for our own behavior and actions.
Our own environments that someone else made. And our schools, which someone else made. But we built this country.
It's white people's fault that those ghettos are how they are.
Yes. But pretty stock rhetoric for black nationalists, you might wonder. If we go to the next one, the next image, you can see... Sorry, the next image, please. You can see more of his publications for the Courier here. Brown wrote a touching piece about how he grappled with historical racism while finally learning to swim. I don't know if this is some joke about the Olympics.
I'm sorry, is he just learning to do the breaststroke going, take that, plantation owners?
Yeah, black people can swim too. There's some white guy who's like running really fast who's like, take that back. No, he can't do, no, he wouldn't be able to say that.
Don't worry, I'm on the other side of the coin. I learned to jump the other day.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. And if we go to the next image, you can see more of his publications, especially being new to the movement, were unorganized, angry. A lot of that is being perceived as reckless and violence. We're really confused and lost, writes Brown. He certainly is, which is why he ended up as a terrorist.
Yeah, I mean, when you're saying, oh, I'm just confused and lost and angry, that kind of like tends to be a hallmark of this sort of behavior, doesn't it?
It's almost as if this movement is destined for violence.
And the funny thing is that No's talking about how, you know, they platformed him and stuff like that. And being free speech, I'm happy that there are places for people to be able to print all of this sort of stuff. It's just a shame that it leads to this, and it is very telling when you look back on this that nobody looked at it and went, this seems to be leading somewhere.
It should have been bleedingly obvious that the extremist involved with black nationalism and communism might not be an angel. He might have some other activities he might want to be taking place in. Okay, the next one, there is, of course, another publication from him, which he advocates that on Black History Month, you should shop with black-owned businesses. I hate this. I hate this idea that we should be segregating our shopping purchases on the basis of race. Holocaust Remembrance Day. Only shop with Jews this day. It's stupid. Moving on, though. Let's go to the next link so we can see Andy going even harder on this. Quintez Brown is a black nationalist, communist revolutionaire, and BLM activist whose social media history shows left-wing conspiratorial rhetoric in his regards to race and white supremacy. His crazy ideas were laundered by the mainstream through his role at the Courier Journal. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing I like about Andy. You can sometimes think that like he's putting his opinion on it, but everything there is just factually true.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing with journalism is that you can put your opinion on it as long as you include all the factual information. People can figure it out themselves.
And if we go to the next one, we can see some more from Andy as well. So, as he puts here, this is an amazing publication in a response to one of your comrades engaging terrorism. Courier Mail published an opinion piece by Dr. Ricky L. Jones, chair of the University of Louisville African Studies Department. He expressed his love for Quintez Brown and says he stands with him. Brown was charged with the attempted murder of mayoral candidate Craig Greenberg. This is after.
Yeah, I was about to ask. And
Just
this
to
was
make sure.
printed afterwards.
This is afterwards.
Well, he might have tried to shoot a man, but goddamn, institutionalized racism must stop.
Yes, the institutionalized racism that caused this black man to decide to shoot.
See, it was the ghost. It was the ghost of white plantation owners possessed his hand, made him reach for that gun.
Runs in that question of are Jews white again, which we're going to leave on the sidelines because that's another story that we're going to go through at a later date. So let's click on these images so you can see the story and the opinion piece that's written after the shooting. This is after they know they've done it. Ricky Jones, what happened to the brilliant Quintez Brown, the brilliant, the merciful?
What happened to the brilliant Unabomber?
It's just, let's go to the article itself, which he says in here of the brilliant Quintez Brown, as I'm sure we are destined to call him. They will not talk about the fact that Quintez was among the minority of young black boys who made it to college. As if that has anything to do with it. Yeah. This is like, did you know he made it to college?
He was a well-educated terrorist,
yes,
don't you know?
I know that American colleges are part of the problem into radicalizing people into nonsense. No, Quintez Brown isn't simply a wayward activist turned assassin, as he is now characterized by many. He was one of the most brilliant students I've ever taught. Yes, Al-Qaeda also did incredibly well at school.
Yes. I'm sorry, that's a hell of a self-report at the end there. Maybe you should be reconsidering your teaching methods if this is how your students are ending up.
Like, all of Al-Qaeda, all of them have doctorates and masters and engineering and blah, 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 blah. But they met lunatics, particularly lunatics at the places where they were learning, probably like you, by the sounds of it, as you say, weird self-report there, and then became nutjob revolutionaries for weird ideologies. And, well, Quintez Brown has done exactly that. I mean, I love how he's just like, well, he was a very good student. And it's like, could you imagine being like, well, Bin Laden was a good student. He did 9/11, but, he's a good student.
He wasn't just the 9/11 guy, okay?
The 9/11 thing kind of overshadows the A's he got at A-levels.
But seriously, look at some of this coursework. It's incredible.
Look at his theories on white supremacy. May have shot a man. If we go to the next one, we can see Rush Today reporting on the fact that... wonderful news. Amazon has decided to cut ties with BLM from its charity program. I look forward to many more of these organizations at least somewhat rectifying this mistake.
The problem, I wonder, is Amazon doing this for the fact of, hey, we've only just opened our eyes to the fact that BLM keeps supporting hoaxes and terrorists, or is it because, we don't know if the money is going straight into the back pockets of the organizers?
I mean, they're all terrible things.
I mean, they're all terrible things, but will Amazon do it because, hold up, we're supporting terrorism, or just because the money won't be going to the terrorists?
No, I mean, the donation at the beginning was always just, look at me, we're the good guys because we give to the Black Lives Matter group. And then everyone's just realized, wait, no, these guys are a bunch of revolutionary lunatics who stuff cash left, right, and center. So there's no reason to support them. But you think maybe some other people have cut ties? Because if we go to the next one, we can see that the Courier-Journal has apparently removed themselves from the Wayback Machine, so it's harder to find.
Oh, really?
The fact that he used to write for them. Funny that. So maybe BLM have cut ties. Maybe they're like, oh, okay, whoa, he used to work for us, but not anymore. Not after the shooting. Nah, he's still their comrade in arms to this day. Let's go to the next one. As you can see, this lady here. The $100,000 cashier's check has been officially given to the clerk's office to pay for the BLM Louisville's activist Quintez Brown's release. The Lou Com Bail Fund is paying. Brown is accused of shooting at Louisville mayoral candidate. And BLM paid the bail.
Of course they did.
They paid the bail for their comrade. And in case you're wondering, maybe there's two different organizations. They're not. Let's go to the next one, which you can also see the BLM Louisville group there. And then the name of the fund. And then the fact that also it's funded by Soros, because every single time, I'm not even joking.
Every single leftist organization.
Yeah, as Andy points out here, it says they're fully committed to funded, but the fiscally sponsored by the Alliance for Global Justice, AFGJ, receives money from the Soros Open Society Foundations. Because every single time it's bloody Soros, isn't it? Yeah. Let's go to the next one, in which you can see Andy also pointing out the fact that some people may find the $100,000 that just popped out of the sky for this guy because he's a good boy. You need to get him out. Can't have him sit in jail for a few days.
I wonder again where that $60 million went.
Oh, God knows. But the instant bail for the Louisville murder suspect, people may find it surprising, and he says. But last year, I reported on a two-count attempted murder suspect and anti-farm member who had $2.1 million bail covered, and he was firearms training in Louisville before going to Portland. Never forget 2020. I know this has sort of like moved into the background of everyone's memories. No, never forget it. These people, what they did in 2020 is unforgivable, frankly.
It sounds like they were training for a situation like this. They were just hoping for some kind of event to kick it all off.
It's just the numbers of murders of people got murdered throughout 2020 because some guy overdosed. It's like, this shouldn't be forgotten. Moving on, though. Let's go to the next one, in which we can see BLM Louisville is hanging out with the Louisville Community Bail Fund and then retweeting images of them with them. So it just is the same group. That's not mince words. So it is just BLM directly bailing out their comrade after attempting to murder someone. BLM martyrs, boys. Didn't do nothing. I mean, is that literally his defense? I don't know if he's pleaded guilty or not yet. If we go to the next one, of course, we can also see that this group, BLM Louisville, also just happily used GoFundMe. This is a post they put up. What was it, like the most recent one I saw on there? And they've been using GoFundMe forever. No one cares. GoFundMe never cares. They never do. If
you're honking your horns.
Absolutely. And if we go to the next one, you can also see BLM standing in support of their comrade. So some dude is responding to them, giving the money and being like, well, that's ridiculous. You talking about police brutality and the injustice in the world. Lol, that's rich coming from an organization that supports someone who just attempted to shoot a government employee, Theodore writes. And you can see BLM Louisville just respond with candidate.
That's the only rebuttal they have.
The only rebuttal they have is you've got to... No. He only shot a candidate, not a government employee.
That's the equivalent of if they just corrected like he'd used the wrong "your" or something. Actually, you needed an apostrophe.
Whoa, we may be terrorists, but we are to kill political candidates, not government employees. They work for us. If we go to the next one, we can actually see a statement from the candidate himself. Sorry, this is some of the comparisons as well being made. Some of the memes, I am enjoying the memes in regards to this one. As you can see, just the difference in how Kyle Rittenhouse and Mr. Brown were treated. I mean, it's not even funny at this point, but it is funny at the same time.
It's still shocking to me, having covered the whole Rittenhouse thing and the trial and everything. I know you weren't that interested in it because you thought it was an open shut thing, but for a lot of people, it wasn't, which was why I was interested. And so there are some people out there who are still convinced that Rittenhouse is just a cold-blooded murderer.
Mad, isn't it?
It's insane.
I mean, Facebook put out that memorandum saying that you couldn't support him because he was a mass murderer. Do you remember that? Remember his name being banned? If anyone posted, Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I remember.
Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong, factually. Proven in court.
Take that, Zuck.
Let's go to the next one so we can see the statement from the candidate who was shot at, and he has some good things to say, in which he says, our criminal justice system is clearly broken. Yeah, no S. I was just shot at, this guy just walks free. It is nearly impossible to believe that someone can attempt murder on Monday and walk out of jail on Wednesday. Yeah, I have a huge sympathy with this guy. He's like, I was just shot at. This dude almost killed me.
And he's walking the street again.
In 2 days, because some extreme leftists just turned up with stacks of cash.
I mean, this is literally what BLM do and like the bail project do. They'll have it so that the guy will go into jail, get bailed out 15 minutes later. 15 minutes later from that, he'll be back in jail because he immediately tried to steal a car. There are examples of it.
Mad. He then goes on to just whine about how he's opposing gun crime, but it sounds very much like campaigning language, so I'm just going to skip over it because it's just kind of strange. But his point about it being broken, I mean, yes, but why is the justice system broken, my friend? Well, I mean, partly the bail system is obviously mad, but then why are there such groups in the United States openly happy to bail out direct terrorists?
And that being supported by people like Kamala Harris.
We're fine with it. This dude tried to kill a political candidate, of course. Big important
Don't want
point.
him correcting you.
Yeah, we'll stack the 100 grand down. No problem, bro. No problems whatsoever. We have no moral quandaries whatsoever. That's the philosophy of BLM in action. If we go to the next one, I'd also like to mention just Andy Knows reporting on General, because I like Andy. Sue me. And as you can see, he actually got banned from Twitter in the middle of all this, and he had to post on Getter about this.
Suspended for a day or two, wasn't he?
Yeah, he put out a death threat that he got sent. Just be like, hey, I got a death threat. And then Twitter banned him for doxing the guy who sent the death threat because his name was in there, or his email, which doesn't make any kinds of sense. But that's Twitter for you. So you can find him on Getter, of course, at Mr. Andy No. And if we go to the next one, there's also some reporting that came out recently that I think is very worthwhile looking at, which is, as Andy notes, one of the most important reports on Antifa published in the mainstream press. A team headed by an Aramis sociology professor at Penn State analyzed BLM and Antifa unrest in 2020. They found what I did through my reporting. Antifa's presence is the biggest predictor for violence.
What a shock.
And it does not matter if the Proud Boys or another right-wing group are there or not. Antifa will be violent regardless. And there's a quote from here in the report, because I read some of the bits he highlighted. And the best quote is just, we saw no difference between events in which Antifa was facing off with a group such as the Proud Boys or the Three Percenters, and when they were protesting unopposed.
So there's that excuse down the drain.
They are equally as autistic. They will fight garbage cans, apparently. We've all seen the GIF.
They will fight their friends.
They will bomb each other. They will literally do anything because they just act like wild animals who are just there for violence, apparently.
Isn't it the fact that even the BLM people who are at these riots and stuff are still like, no, it's literally just Antifa starting this whole thing.
I love, there's a wonderful clip, I'm going to show you afterwards, in which there's a BLM protest, right? And they're all there with their signs and stuff, and some guy in black bloc turns up, smashing up some rocks, and then all the black guys around him look at him, they're much bigger than him, but they just go, white people. They grab him, he turns around, he's like, no, comrades. They just grab it, throw him over to the police, who are like, get him. Great. Absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But then, so that's that. I'll end on a couple more things from Andy, which if we go to the next one, we can see, of course, that GoFundMe is still accepting communist money for these delinquents. And then the last thing to mention being that last story, which just came out, and I don't know what to make of it. We're just going to say that it's what Andy's reporting, because that's, I suppose, all we can do. This is so wild. Facebook/Meta's manager of community development, Geran Andrew Miles, was allegedly caught in an amateur child sex sting. YouTube channel Predator Catchers Indianapolis live streamed their interrogation of him, and you can read the interrogation and watch the full thing.
Another leftist nonce. Oh, what a surprise.
Remember how Facebook were obsessed with Kyle Rittenhouse being a mass murderer? I mean, they're so far gone that they actually brought into that nonsense.
Well, they were obviously on Rosenbaum's side this whole time.
And yet, the entire Silicon Valley platforms are still openly funding money for these communist delinquents. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the book club me and Carl did together on Active Measures, which is a book documenting some of the autistic weirdness that the Soviets and the CIA did to each other throughout the Cold War. But if you'd like to follow me on Getter as well, you can follow at Getter_Callum. Thank you and goodbye.